I've certainly been a hell of a lot more successful in the broadcasting world than I was in the playing world, even though I did, have some great moments as a player and lived every kid who plays hockey's dream of playing in the NHL and being drafted and lifting the Stanley Cup.
2, 3, 4. Let me tell you about PuckPedia, stats, contracts, and caps. It's all there for you. One-stop shop for your hockey information. It's a hockey sensation. So log on, log on, log on. If you give a puck, go to PuckPedia.com.
We now welcome on a very special guest to the PuckPedia Hockey Show, episode 35 here. We are joined by Colby Cohen. If you guys don't know, Colby does Morning Cuppa Hockey every day on the Daily Faceoff Network. He also does some college hockey analysis with Bucci, although you call him Butchie. I saw on the Spittin Chiclets the other day, which threw people off. But,
I know.
We're lucky to have you. It's Colby Cohen. Colby, how you doing today?
Yeah, that's I always call him Butchie. I know everyone else calls him Bucci, because it's probably, but I've always called him Butchie just from the get-go. And him and I, we became buddies in 2011, actually. Our friendship started on Twitter, 15 plus years ago now. He tweeted something, again, Twitter was so new, and he tweeted something about me one time. And I remember being like, holy shit. I don't know if I can swear on this one.
Yeah,
or
it doesn't
not,
matter.
Okay.
Whatever you
need. But he tweeted something, and I was like, wow, John Buccigross, this guy, this icon that I just watched on SportsCenter my whole life. And then me and him and his son, we met up for dinner in the North End before a Bruins playoff game. I got him tickets and stuff like that. And then we've just been friends ever since. He helped me get in with ESPN when I got pushed. I started at ESPN. I did 3 tournaments. The first 2 tournaments I did, I was on the 4th crew, and I was terrible, shocked that I even got invited back. Then they moved me up to the 3rd crew. And then after that, they moved me to the 1st crew. And in order for them to do that, Butchie and Barry had to sign off on that because they had been doing it together for a while. And they had to agree that I was going to be cool as the 3rd person. And the 2 of them were just so welcoming. And Barry's, I could spend a whole day talking about how much I love Barry Melrose and what he's meant to me. But Butchie's become one of my best buddies, and we have so much fun working together. So I do know people get so annoyed that I call him Butchie instead of Bucci. And I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, why do you care? Why are you so, so it's funny that you bring that up. You know what I mean? Because it is definitely something that I've heard for years from people.
No, it's funny too, because a lot of the outsiders who don't have that personal relationship with him are calling him Bucci. So if they're criticizing you for calling him Butchie, who's someone who has that relationship with him, it's a little interesting. And we know you love getting in the mix on X as well.
I'm not afraid to, huh?
Exactly.
Just yesterday, oh my God, the meltdowns that are taking place in my mentions right now over me just joking and being sarcastic about how amazing hockey culture is. And there was that great video last night of all the guys, staying on the ice, bringing Jonathan Quick back out, the icons between him and Bob hugging, having those words. And, I tweeted something with a ... to show that I'm being sarcastic. And the replies are just, we were talking about it on Morning Cuppa Hockey. It's funny, embarrassing, sad. There's a lot of adjectives to describe it.
Exactly. And I used to work with the Rangers content folks. So they did a really good job of highlighting Jonathan Quick, just the mix of pictures and videos last night on that. And it was just a great send off for an American legend, a potential future Hall of Fame player.
Definite Hall of Famer. Yeah. I think first ballot Hall of Famer. I would be pretty comfortable saying that, Keith. He's been such a treat to watch.
The guy on your network on the Daily Faceoff, I think Paul, Adjusted Hockey, who does the Hockey Hall of Fame index, actually doesn't have Quick as a Hall of Famer based on how he does his numbers. But I totally agree with you. Best American goalie, 2 Stanley Cups, absolute legend, ridiculous prime of his career. So we'll see how it all plays out. But Colby,
how about longevity too, Keith?
40.
It's crazy how long he's played and the length of time he played for one team. I know he had that little stint in Vegas, but he's basically been, 800 plus games of two teams. Like whoever wrote that on Daily Faceoff is clearly not someone who watches hockey. That's what I'll say, because that's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, even when he slid into the Rangers too, right? He was such a solid backup to Igor. I think it was last season or the season before Igor got hurt, and Quick had to go for an extended period of time and kept the Rangers in the mix in that time. So doing it at that age and how long he did it, I totally agree. But let's switch gears a little bit here too. I know Colby doesn't want to talk about himself too much, but we'll do a quick background on Colby real quick. Just talk about like coming up through hockey and like, obviously you got a nice cup of coffee with the Avs. You played your 3 NHL games there. I think you were also a Black Ace during the Bruins Stanley Cup run as well. And we were talking about the event you had on, and that's how you met Dennis Seidenberg, who was lucky enough in February, Morning Cuppa Hockey and Tri-State Hockey Pod had an event in New York City. But then also too, like how you balance the Morning Cuppa Hockey now and the media side of things. Did you always know you wanted to kind of go that route?
Yeah. I really didn't. I definitely, I think cup of coffee might even be a little bit generous. It's probably more like a little espresso shot. A single espresso shot is probably the best way to talk about it.
More PIMs than games played.
Like, listen, you got to make sure you get on the score sheet one way or another. I also ate a puck on a 5-on-3 power play in one of those games because the guy was clearing it, ramped it up my stick, literally ate the puck.
Did you lose some chiclets?
Split open on my like whole lower part of my mouth. Thank God I had a mouth guard in, so it protected my tops. And then the puck, we ended up scoring, and I had the third assist on the goal. But hey, listen, they obviously had confidence in me, giving me love on the 5-on-3. I was just, you're on a 5-on-3 power play with like John Michael Lyles and Milan Hajduk and Chris Stewart and Paul Stastny. You're probably too timid to shoot the puck. Which I don't think they love. But I feel so fortunate to have got to grow up in the game. And I say, like, the game of hockey has given me everything, and it continues to give me everything. I mean, and I can connect everything in my life back to the sport of hockey, everything in my family life, the relationships that I have, the great people that I've met. And it's funny because as a broadcaster, I think you learn more about the game as a broadcaster. It's one of the reasons I think Keith Jones is such a good president of hockey ops, and I think Eddie Olczyk would be one as well, because you actually have this unique situation as a broadcaster where you get to see under the hood of every team, right? When I was working in Chicago, I get to talk to every coach in the NHL every day. A new coach would roll in. We'd get to sit and have a private conversation, and the coach from our team, which was Luke Richardson at the time, Jeremy Colleton, Luke Richardson, Derek King. And you get to talk hockey with every single day. And you get to look at the board in the coach's room. And I got to spend time with Kyle Davidson and sit with him as a general manager. And he was so good to me in the things that he would explain when they were recruiting free agents, when they were making trades, and how they viewed things. So I actually learned more about the game of hockey as a broadcaster than I did as a player. Because when you're playing, you're just in it, right? I mean, I spend a month of every year doing the college games and work in the NCAA tournament. And like, you know how much time I get to spend with David Carle? Do you know how much I learn from David Carle? Mike Hastings is another guy. Spent a ton of time with me during the Frozen Four. Got to meet Dane Jackson, who we learned from in our meeting with him. You meet new coaches like Pat Ferschweiler, who I know really well now. Like, that guy will be behind an NHL bench, Pat Ferschweiler, if he wants to. Like, he will get that opportunity. So I get to spend time looking under the hood, meeting the coaches, seeing how they practice, what technologies are they using, how are they recovering. Like, and as a broadcaster, a lot of the programs want to talk to you because they want you to help promote them. And I've just been so fortunate to have that run and to get to do all these things that I never planned on or expected. Like, I got lucky. I was hurt. I was under contract with the Bruins. I had groin surgery. My contract was expiring. I was going to miss the whole next year and be without a contract. And New England Sports Network reached out to me and gave me an opportunity as a broadcaster. And I was not very good. I mean, that's an understatement. Like, I was bad, but they worked with me and they stuck with me. And Tom Caron, was a legend in New England, and Billy Jaffe and Jamison Coyle. These people were just in my corner. And then, opportunities just kind of started presenting themselves. So it's taken on a life of its own. I've certainly been a hell of a lot more successful in the broadcasting world than I was in the playing world, even though I did, have some great moments as a player and lived every kid who plays hockey's dream of playing in the NHL and being drafted and lifting the Stanley Cup, like literally lifting the Stanley Cup and doing all that. So I just think a lot of it's been a lot of luck, a lot of right place at the right time, and a lot of great people really helping me along the way.
Yeah, that's what you hear a lot, right? It's not just, the hard work you put in, but everyone has to get a little bit lucky here and there to get their break. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles a little bit. Before we dive into like the NHL side of things, let's bring it back to the Frozen Four this past weekend. So Denver won their third national championship in the last 5 years, coached by David Carle, who basically has unlimited job security at Denver. It seems like obviously teams want him to make that transition to the NHL, but to your point, he has a small family. And it's just something that, like a coach you mentioned yesterday, Dean Evison, who like is a great coach, he got fired like multiple times in a couple years just because of the way how the NHL operates. And so why don't you talk about the Frozen Four a little bit, but then also too on the media side of things. I was listening to G Talk, and basically it made more sense for them to buy a ticket as opposed to going through the credential route just because of all these limitations, and NCAA hockey is not kind of embracing a way to grow the game. So talk through the Final Four, but then also the media side of things as well.
So, yeah, first David Carle, like he'll go when he wants to, but I don't like last year I thought maybe he would. I don't foresee it happening right now because he has 3 kids under the age of 5. He probably makes a lot of money at Denver, like a lot of money. I think David probably is right there with first-time NHL head coaches in the NHL. Like there's coaches in the NHL that make $1.5 million. I would be willing to bet without knowing, with bonuses and winning a championship every year, it seems like he probably gets near that number, and he probably has a home and a car and a golf membership. And the universities are really creative about the packages. And not only has he won 3 as a head, he got one as an assistant with Jim Montgomery as well. Yeah. So he's got 4 rings in his college coaching career at the age of 36.
Couple World Juniors too to throw in the mix.
2 World Junior golds. So I'm so impressed by David. He's a guy that I know since we're 14 years old. He was a good hockey player. He was supposed to play at Denver. And then he had a medical condition, so he couldn't play. And that's when he became student coach. They honored his scholarship. They did right by him, which isn't surprising with how classy they run things at Denver. Their AD, Josh Barlow, is first class, class act type of guy. And so, David, he's so confident and secure. I just think that he loves that the way he gets to be with his kids. And I try to get him to come on Morning Cuppa Hockey, which is 7 a.m. in Mountain Time. But he's like, look, I could come on, but like, it's craziness. I take my kids to school. I like to be involved with my family. He's like, could we pre-record something later? So that tells me being a dad is really important to David Carle. It's really important. And the quality of life that he has, you can't beat it. You really can't. There's a reason Jack Parker never went to the NHL because he had opportunities. And I think David's going to take his time and do it when he's ready and probably wait till his kids grow up a little bit. That doesn't mean someone couldn't come along and offer him $8 million a year for 5 years. Here's $40 million guaranteed, or maybe the Avs don't win the cup this year and Jared Bednar maybe gets let go, and then all of a sudden you don't have to move and you get a big contract. So we'll see, right? But the Frozen Four is such a great event. The hockey's great. The 1-game elimination, do or die. I mean, I don't know.
How was Vegas as a location?
They did such a great job. They did. I mean, Vegas killed it. The fans were unbelievable. The place was sold to the brim. The atmosphere was tremendous. It was one of the best I've done 8 of them. It was top 2 or 3 for me. I think Tampa does it as well as anyone as well. So that part of it was done really well. And I did get to spend a lot of time with Grinnell and those guys at the Frozen Four, and they were going to do a live show out in the courtyard of T-Mobile. They had plans and the NCAA just squashed it. And I think the problem, in my opinion, with the NCAA is that, it's a lot of bureaucrats, and there's been a lot of lawsuits, and, they're losing more and more control. And I think in areas where they can control, they want to, and they feel like, oh, look, there's always actual real things where it's like, all right, if certain sponsors are paying millions of dollars to sponsor it, and then Spittin Chiclets rolls in with their sponsors, like I get that. But at the end of the day, nothing is a bigger platform than what those guys do, Spittin Chiclets. And to have them at the Frozen Four and to have them promoting it, it's only going to grow the game. And I just think the bureaucracy of all of it is the problem. I think it's one of the reasons we haven't moved to on-site regionals. I know David Carle went on Spittin Chiclets yesterday, and
he's beaten that drum.
He lays out, and this is what I love about David, right? He doesn't tell you the problem. He tells you the problem, and then he gives you a bulletproof plan on how to fix it. He's not just yelling problem. He's saying, no, I can fix your problem. Listen, it's well thought out. And so there's a lot of room for growth with the NCAA tournament. But at the end of the day, like for me, as I said to my bosses as we were leaving, like I feel lucky that I am entrusted to do those games, and that, they have plenty of other options that they can go to. They have plenty of other NHL guys they can go to, but they continue to let Butchie and I do that, and we take a lot of pride in it. I know that the preparation for the tournament, man, the amount of film that I watch, because look, there's no secret for me. Like, I'm not watching every Friday night. I'm not watching North Dakota play. But once I see they're in the Frozen Four, I spend 4 straight days watching games. And then I go on Instat and I watch their power play clips, and I watch their breakout clips, and I watch their defensive zone coverage clips, and I pick 2 or 3 players and I just watch their shifts. And so the preparation that goes into it is I mean, you're spending, I don't know, 10 to 20 hours per team just leading up to the Frozen Four. Leading up to the tournament, you're doing even more because you don't know what teams you're going to actually get, right? So I'm watching games from the early part of the season, the middle part, and the end. And then you're talking to NHL scouts and coaches, and you're meeting with the players. And, so there's an insane amount of preparation that goes into it. But I feel lucky that I get to be the guy that does the color and gets to be between the benches. Like, I don't take that for granted whatsoever. And I'm going to try and hold on to that job as long as I can. Like, we were laughing about it, and Butchie was doing the math, and he's like, all right, so your son could be playing in a Frozen Four in 17 years. He's like, you're 36. He's like, see if we can hang on to try to do his Frozen Four 1 year. So,
he just got extended too. So
yeah, he did. He just signed an extension that lines up with the remainder of ESPN's NHL coverage. And if they re-sign on the rights, he'll get another extension to continue, because there's not been a better and louder voice for hockey in general at ESPN for 25, 30 years, honestly.
Yeah, let's talk through that balance of like watching all this tape. So you're not doing much college hockey like during the regular season and into the first couple rounds of the playoff, but then the Frozen Four, you have to kind of be all hands on deck watching everything and kind of knowing the ins and outs of each team and all the players. But then also too, with your Morning Cuppa Hockey Show, you have to be pretty in tune every single day with what's going on at the NHL. And so, you're on the East Coast, so it's probably harder to stay up to watch those West Coast games. You coach youth hockey, you have a family, a couple young children,
junior
and so
hockey. Yeah,
junior hockey, but then you also have family. So
Yep.
like, how do you kind of balance, watching all this hockey and coaching, and then also having that family time and that personal time too? Like, there's a lot going on.
Well, luckily we get up really early here at the Cohen household, like 5:30. I've got 2 little alarm clocks that are ready. and it's not just like, let's get up and chill. It's let's get up and go crazy. Luckily they did that Inside Out broadcast on ESPN, and my kids loved it. So lately they've been jumping in my bed at like 5:30, and we put that on for them, and they lay there and watch it, because it's 2 things. They love hockey and they love that Inside Out movie. So
do they know the result is the same every single time?
No, they're not. They're only 3 and 1.5. So we still have a little trickery left. We also never get through the whole thing. So we started at different points just to keep them on their toes. But look, it's a lot. I mean, I'm watching a ton of NHL every night. I'm trying to focus on like, two teams a night, 2 games a night, but like really focus on one team from the one game and one team from another game. You try to catch an early game and a late game, a 7 and a 9 type of thing. And then in the morning, I usually spend an hour before the show on Instat and looking at, special teams and looking at You can clip high danger chances. You can break it up into neutral zone regroups or D zone coverage. And so I'll spend an hour in the morning looking at clips from all the games that I wasn't able to watch. Johnny floats and goes game to game. I'm not good at that. I feel like when I only take a period of this game and a period of that game, I feel like I don't get a good feel. And so I like to try to see the games through. So once my kids go to bed at 7:30, it's just all hands on deck for watching hockey, like 90, all season. And you're right. Like, there's no college games really left to broadcast. The TV deals have mostly gone away. It's mostly just streaming, and it's local announcers. It's just whoever, they're student produced and they're local announcers. And to be honest, like, I'm not leaving my family to go up to Boston to call a game and do a student production game for $250. Like, I'm not doing that. Right. So even sometimes I get offered games on the college networks, and like, they don't pay well enough. And it's not worth it for me when I coach and I have a family to do a lot of those games. So you're right. Like, I do 2-3 games during the year for ESPN regular season, and then we get to the tournament. And so the tournament just becomes a ton of prep. And I lock myself in my office, and I do it early. I do it late. And you just got to grind away on film and make sure you got to memorize, I don't know, like 80 to 100 players and names. I mean, you can't go into a game not knowing every number and name. You just can't. And so, that's 3x5 cards. It's old school. It's handwriting lines out. It's committing them to memory. Then once you do that and you start watching film, everything really falls into place. So it's definitely a lot, but it's for a month of the year, right? And I coach our team, just lost in the playoffs. And so now I go to my summer schedule, which is Morning Cuppa Hockey, and then a ton of time with my family. Once we get into this, to July, August, September, we don't even do Morning Cuppa every day. We just do one day a week pre-recorded. So I kind of get this lucky teacher's schedule, where the summers, like, I'm with my kids all day, every day in the summer. And, we go down to Margate and down the shore, and I get to spend the days at the beach, the pool. Like, I get to be around them so much to make up for all the time I'm away during the season and coaching and traveling for hockey. So I think I'm lucky, man. I think, like, I always say you're better lucky than good. And I think my life has been one that I've been really, really blessed with a lot of luck. I've been blessed with a lot of help. What my parents did for me, my dad in particular, like, just helping me get to where I am, and the effort that he put into my life. I mean, geez, like, I hope that I can do that for my kids and give them what my dad gave me, and set me up for success in life like he did for me. And so it's all important to me, man. And it's a juggling act.
Yeah, and it's awesome too, right? Like, it's a grind during the regular season and the playoffs, but then once those playoffs finish, like, you're able to, like you said, spend a ton of time with your family, and it's not something, people with normal jobs get the luxury of doing. So it pays off nice. And like you said, you're a shore guy. I'm like a shore guy, but a more northern shore guy. Like, my mom lives in, like, the Toms River area, but anywhere along the Jersey Shore is great in the summer.
It's right up the Garden State Park. Toms River is an hour and a half up the Garden State Parkway.
Yep.
I'm familiar with it. I pass it anytime I go to Middletown from Margate. I see the Toms River exit, and I'm familiar with it. So, we're way south, obviously, down in Margate, but still, like, how great it is down there in the summer. Like, it's definitely the place, the place that you want to be. And I know there's a lot of, Cape people love the Cape up in New England, and people love the Hamptons in New York. And we love the shore, man. That's how we grew up. My wife and I, we both grew up going to the same beach towns. We didn't know each other, but we always laughed. Like, we were probably in the same bars when we were 20, 21 years old, down in Avalon and some of these other towns. Right. So, it's, like I said, like, I look at it all and I zoom out and I'm like, geez, like, I'm lucky, man. Like, I truly believe and feel that.
No, same story with me too. Like, me and my new fiance, like, we were probably going to the same bars, but we met, like, well after college. So it's just funny how things work out like that
Yep,
sometimes.
for sure.
But then now, so we're talking Jersey Shore, right? You're Margate, you're close to Philadelphia. So why don't
Yep.
we transition a little bit into the NHL playoffs here?
Yeah.
So we officially have all 16 teams clinched for their playoff spots, including the Philadelphia Flyers, who's probably the team I would say that you follow the closest, just kind of given like where you are locationally and just watching them seems like more frequently than not. You were talking about them on Morning Cuppa Hockey this morning. Why don't we talk about the NHL playoffs here? You can talk about the Flyers a little bit, how you think Porter Martone has kind of made his transition into that lineup, if you think he could have an impact in the playoffs. And with some of these injuries like Colorado and Makar out, like what if you think there's an opening there, or how you think the playoffs are going to play out?
Yeah, like I thought the Flyers this year were really interesting. There was so much drama surrounding the Flyers all year with all the craziness towards Rick Tocchet and just like all the Michkov stuff. So I definitely paid closer attention this year to the Flyers than I probably have since I was a young Flyers fan. You lose that, unfortunately.
When you're working, like you kind of have to lose the fandom a little bit.
Well, and when I was drafted, I think that's really when you lose it. The day of the draft, when they don't pick you, is
Right.
really when your allegiance to them, your childhood allegiance, goes away.
And a new team's giving you a new sweater,
Yeah,
and you're like, this is my team now.
and money and a signing bonus and helping set you up, and so
Yep.
you become like that way. But there's a lot of people in the Flyers organization that I really care about and I want to see succeed. Danny Briere being number one. I mean, I've known Danny forever. We were we've just been friends for a long time. His kids worked for me at one point, in another business. So like I've just gotten to know him. His wife and my wife are friendly, and his wife's a doctor and actually sees my wife as a patient. So I want Danny to be successful. And I always say, like, sometimes I don't understand everything that they're doing there, but I trust Danny. I really do. And I trust Keith Jones. And I think that those two are a real good team together. And I think Rick Tocchet is a tremendous hockey coach. And so I enjoyed kind of antagonizing Flyers fans this year and watching them melt down over Michkov. And it's just funny how the minute Martone got to town, everybody's Michkov sensitivity like went away. And so I hope the Flyers can keep it going, man. Like, playoff hockey in Philly is great. I know how passionate the fans are. I know a lot of the fans are friends of mine. I said this morning on Morning Cuppa Hockey. Like, I've become friendly with the guy who owns a butcher shop, out in Suburban Square. Like, I live in Villanova, PA, right? So, you've got Radnor Township, Lower Merion Township, and we go to this farmer's market that has this amazing butcher shop, and the guy who owns it and runs it is a huge Philly sports fan. He called me at 10 o'clock last night. He was so ecstatic, and I knew he was calling me to talk about the Flyers. He was so ecstatic about this, man, and he is your true Philadelphia sports fan, and he's and then the minute Rick Tocchet came on WIP for a radio hit, he was like, I got to go. I got to listen to the radio. Like, just so great, man. And so I'm so happy for that here in Philadelphia. I think the series has all the opportunity to be a really good one. I mean, Crosby and Philly for the playoffs, like
two teams no one expected or had any thought that they would make the playoffs. The Penguins were the only team at the beginning of the season that were deemed as sellers that were going to sell off everybody, and they ended up having a ridiculously good season.
Yeah, so I just look at all that, and I'm pulling for them to have a great playoff run. I want to see Travis Konechny. I want to see Travis Sanheim, Sean Couturier, man. I mean, you can't get much more salt of the earth than that guy. You really can't. I mean, a guy that has been through it, a guy that has taken so much heat in this market. He's the longest tenured athlete here. And so I'm just rooting for his personal success. And when that happens, the team does well with those types of people. So, I wouldn't say that I'm a Flyers fan. Like, I definitely don't I don't fancy myself as one.
You're a fan of people.
I'm a fan of the people within that organization. And there's so many good organizations that I do root for. But like, look, the East is open this year. And it wouldn't shock me to see, the Flyers get hot and Vladar get hot, and they are hot, and they've won big games. They go into Winnipeg. They smoked them the other night. They get the Carolina game. Importantly, they come back from a 2-0 deficit against a team that, doesn't have their best players maybe in the lineup, but still a disciplined, structured hockey team. So Porter Martone, boy, did the Flyers get lucky that Michigan State lost, because I got to tell you, this guy has come in here and he has just given you everything. I mean, he's had Chris Kreider, Charlie McAvoy type of impact in his early days in the NHL right out of college. Like
100%.
Ryan Leonard, who I think the world of, did not have this impact when he joined. This guy, Porter Martone, he has, and you get him back. You get him in there. You get Forrester back. Like they're rolling, and so it's gonna be great to watch the Battle of PA. Like whatever happens. Like listen, if Pittsburgh wins, one of my college roommates is behind the bench in Pittsburgh with Nick Bonino, so I'm gonna be thrilled for him if Pittsburgh wins, right? And Colby Armstrong, our good friend, is always on the broadcast for Pittsburgh. So like that's what I'm saying here. Like I just want to see 7 games, and I want to see hate. I want to see these teams hate each other. I want to see Travis Konechny be like a little ball of hate, Brad Marchand style. I think I want to see Travis Sanheim get the respect that he deserves, because people don't realize how good he is, because he hasn't been in the playoffs for a number of years, and he didn't get the respect he deserved for how well he played at the Olympics or the Four Nations. People are still doubting this guy, and I'm like, you just have no idea how good this hockey player is. So, and I want Rick Tocchet to have the last laugh with all these people that were calling for his head all season. So there's a lot of reasons to watch that series, and Tocchet was a coach in Pittsburgh. It's going to be great hockey.
That's what makes playoff hockey the best too, right? It's like the hatred that, especially these two teams both coming from the same state. I think that's just going to make it electric. Before we go over to the West a little bit too, I want to talk about one player in particular, a little PuckPedia spin on it. So Trevor Zegras, having a great year, right? 67 points in 81 games played. He's coming off the last year, 3-year deal, $5.75 million annual AAV. He's up at the end of this season. RFA does have arbitration rights. What do you think that next contract looks like for Zegras? And do the Flyers definitely have to re-sign this guy? Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, he has to kind of re-sign there.
Listen, you found your legitimate number 2 center for when you could potentially be a legitimate contender, right? And a number 2 center,
they don't grow on trees.
When you don't have a number 1 center, their value goes up even more. And I think that, the number, I don't know, it's probably somewhere north of 9.5. I think it's probably not between 9.5 and 10.5. With the cap going up, that's less than 10% of your cap. He falls into being a number 2 center who's a great player on the power play, who's bought in. I would think they give him the 8 years. Like I would just have to think, in order to keep the number down, you're going to give him the 8 years. He's done everything you've asked. Like, because he's an RFA, it certainly gives the Flyers more leverage to not go up maybe north of 10 million. Maybe it is in the 9s. I think Johnny thought 8.5 on our show. And I said, I think 8.99 should be our push. I think if it's 9 or above, I'll take it. If it's under 8.9, even though we said 8.5, I'll give it to you. Because I do think that's the sweet spot. Somewhere in that range, I would think would be the number for him, as a guy who, again, he's played some wing, he's played some center. His face-off percentage is not great, but that's kind of what I think. What do you think? What do you guys think? Because I know you guys do a lot of projections and you guys look at numbers and you understand numbers a hell of a lot better than I do.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. I think it depends on if the Flyers want to go with term or with AAV. Like, I think there's a world where a lot of these players and their agents are really kind of pushing for a 3 to 4 year deal so that they can then get another deal while the player's still in their prime. So if Zegras signs a 3 or 4 year deal, he'll be under 30 still. He'll be right around 29 years old. So it's just interesting with the rising salary cap. Like, we know about what it's going to be in the next 2 to 3 years, but then after that, like, you don't know if it's going to keep exploding or if it's going to kind of level off to more of a flat cap. It depends on the upcoming revenue, but I think a lot of agents,
it'll keep going up, because
that's what we think.
You're going to have more expansion. You're going to have $1 billion expansion fees.
Yeah.
Like, a new team is going to cost $1 billion. So instead of $5 billion in revenue, and I know the players don't get anything on that, but owners are going to be lining their pockets with expansion money. And you're right. But let's say you gave him 10 or 10.5 now, now, which is maybe slightly too much. In 4 years, $10.5 million is what a third line center is going to be making if the cap keeps going up 5 years. Year 7 and 8 of his deal when he's 32 years old, which still should be producing at a pretty good level.
Yeah.
That's 7% of your salary cap, 6% maybe. So
I mean, look at what Jack Hughes' deal, right? Like, look at how that's aged because the Devils signed him in a flat cap era. So $8 million for Jack Hughes seems absolute bargain on the last 3 to 4 years of that deal.
what we really don't know, and what comes like everybody will always say the right things. He's been great. He's a great teammate. He's bought in. And last night he took himself off the overtime. He took himself off the ice to bring Sean Couturier out. The coaches did not pull him off. He was like, I'm having a shit night on faceoffs. Let's get Coots out here. Like, that is a level of maturity that we didn't see out of him in Anaheim. And so that tells me everything that they're saying about him is true. But we don't truly know behind the scenes. We're not in the room. There's still some area where we don't truly know. We know they're saying it. It looks like it's true. I'd be willing to bet that it's true, but so we just don't know. And that could shift their value down. It could shift their value up. It could make it seem like maybe we don't want to go 8 years. Maybe we're comfortable going to 10.5, but it's only for 5 years. So I think those are the factors and the unknowns that none of us ever know. And that's where I think the contract term and AAV really, really, when you get to the goal line or to the red zone, that's the info we don't have that I think will dictate whether we're north of the 9.5 number, south of the 9.5 number, and what the term looks like.
Yeah, and salary cap space isn't as much of a luxury now as it was 2 to 3 years back. And every team's in their different kind of contention cycles. So a lot of that plays a factor. And then we also don't know, Colby, like how many of these teams are going to be cap ceiling teams? Like a lot of these owners have like internal budgets. And I don't think there's going to be, more than 50% of the teams that are going to be able to spend to the cap ceiling in 3 years. So that obviously plays a factor as well. So while we see these ridiculous numbers like 113 million, 120 million, maybe teams are more in the 100 million area.
I think you're dead right. I believe the Flyers, if there's money to spend, Comcast is a money printing operation. Even with streaming now, they're still a money printing operation. So I have a hard time like seeing the Flyers being a team unwilling to spend money. Obviously with Ed Snyder, it was like an afterthought. Ed was just Ed not only would have spent to the cap, he'd have paid guys under the table if he had to win a cup. I mean, that guy would have done anything to win. It's why the city loved him so much. He was one of them, and he was not some corporation. Now, Dan Hilferty has done a nice job representing Comcast, being the CEO, but it's not necessarily his money. Right? It is still a corporation behind them. It's like the Leafs now. The Leafs are owned by a corporation. So you never know what a corporation's going to do when they've got their P&L and like you're just a line item on a P&L. I think that's one of the reasons fans, they want an owner. They don't want a corporation owning a sports team. They want
like when private equity buys like good mom and pop shops.
They don't like that. People don't like that.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, we'll see how it plays out with Zegras. He does have arb rights, so that definitely plays a factor too. He has a little bit of negotiation tactics. It's the last year of his RFA deal too, so we'll see how that contract negotiation plays out. Like you mentioned, the East is pretty wide open this year. You look at Tampa and Carolina are probably the front runners, but Buffalo's kind of made a surge lately, so it would be awesome to see Buffalo make a deep playoff run. I was looking at the get-in prices for Game 1 is like around $550 to get into the arena on Game 1 for Buffalo. So that'll be an absolute scene. Let us shift over a little bit to the Western Conference here, and where it looks like, I know people complain about the playoff format because the Central this year especially is an absolute juggernaut. 3 of the best teams in the NHL are all in the same division. You're going to have Dallas and Minnesota play each other in round 1, which is going to be an incredible series. And then the Pacific Division is kind of a mess, for lack of a better word. You have Edmonton, Vegas, and Anaheim all kind of battling for those spots. They just don't have the seeding still isn't set because they're all so close. And then Utah is actually going to probably play through the Pacific Division in the playoffs, so they might have a chance to go on a run. What do you make of the Western Conference this year?
We were just talking about how good Carter Hart's played the last 5 games, and what does that mean for
Torts
Vegas?
Effect.
I mean, there's obviously some comfort between those two, and Carter's won his last 5 games and seemingly starting to look like the guy that everybody remembers before he was away from the game for, the Team Canada incident and what happened there. And so, I think that I'm happy to see them get their goaltending situated. And I love Torts. Like I'm a huge Torts fan in the way that he is. I mean, I never worked with him at ESPN, but man, the people who did just rave about what a great human being he is to work with. And, I know his brother a little bit. He's been an NCAA coach for a while, his brother. So I've always kind of had an opportunity to talk to him, Jim Tortorella, and learn more things about John. But I think Vegas, if they get goaltending and with this new coach scenario, like I think they're scary, right? I think ultimately, I think it's Colorado. If they get good goaltending, it's going to be hard to knock them off. Look, Vegas is going to play Utah. It looks like in round one, and that Edmonton-Anaheim series is going to have a lot of goals. I mean, those are two teams that can fill the net.
Defense optional too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Edmonton does know how to buckle down, and I think they've played a lot better.
Look at their deadline ads too, right? Dickinson and then Murphy, like those are lockdown guys.
They've played better, and they've managed the puck a heck of a lot better the last, let's call it 4 to 5 weeks. But there's going to be a lot of goals in the playoffs this year. I strongly think this could be one of the highest scoring playoffs of all time. I'm not sure I'm a proponent of that. I know I've probably had an unpopular opinion the last couple of playoffs and said, I kind of miss the 2-1, 3-2 playoff games where the last 10 minutes is 2-2. And every time a puck goes near the net, the whole building gets on their feet. And then you can hear that energy through the TV. Like, I think I prefer that to a 6-3 win. I just much prefer a 2-1 playoff game that has a lot of scoring chances, mind you. Like, I don't want a boring game, but I want a 2-1 or 3-2 game with a ton of scoring chances and great goaltending. I don't think we're going to get that this year. I think in the West, we are going to see more goals than we have ever seen in a playoff before because of some of the offensive players and the way guys are going. Listen, it's like it's cup or bust for Colorado. It's cup or bust for Dallas. I don't think it's cup or bust for Minnesota. I
don't either.
Like, because they didn't really get the centers that they needed. I think for Minnesota, it's like, let's have a good run here. And who knows? Like, they got goaltending. They've got some tremendous players. Like, they have Quinn Hughes. So I think for them, you win a round or two, albeit you're going to play Dallas in the first round. So, like, good luck to both of those teams. That should be a great series. And then, like, again, I think if Carter Hart gives you 9-15 goaltending, like, look out. Like, Vegas should be able to get through a couple of rounds. But, Connor McDavid is still Connor McDavid.
We'll see when Leon gets into the lineup, too. It's very questionable at this point if it'll be game one or a few games into the series.
And that you get, you don't have them and you get behind early. And I have a hard time seeing Anaheim with or without Draisaitl beating Edmonton. Like, I think I like that Edmonton matchup for Edmonton better than the Vegas one with Utah. I think Anaheim is so young, and like, they'll need to learn to win by losing. And I think Utah will need to learn to win by losing. But I think Edmonton has a little bit of an easier run through Anaheim than I think Vegas will have through Utah. And like, I'm not impressed with LA. And I don't think they'll put up too much of a fight. I think a 5-game series, if against Colorado, if that's how it shakes out. Obviously still 2 games to play, so there can be movement in the West, but yeah, like, I think the West is going to be a lot of goals, like more than the East. Like, I could see tighter games between Pitt and Philly. I could see really tight games between Carolina and Ottawa if that's what we get. I think the series that could really get blown open would be Tampa, Montreal. If that's what we get, which we think that's what we know.
I think that one's locked in.
That one's locked in. And then, like, Buffalo's the wild card. Mm-hmm. Are they going to struggle against Boston, who will get stingy in the first round? Or are they going to continue to score a shitload? And are they going to continue to win with high risk, high reward hockey? Like, they are the biggest wild card to me. If they lose in the first round, I'd be like, okay, yeah. If they go to the final, I'd be like, okay, yeah. Either of those two things for Buffalo make complete sense to me. So I listen, I think it's the first round, like
The best.
it's gonna be really good the first round.
Yeah, it's playing out that way, and like the playoff hockey is the best, right? There's nothing across the four major sports that really brings you to the first round of the NHL playoffs. And Colby, this has been awesome. Like he said, remember to take the overs on these games. We have one final question here. It's our question from CoolBet. If you go to puckpedia.com/coolbet, you can get in on the action today. Stay cool and bet responsibly. Puckpedia.com/coolbet. We have an audience question from Johnny L from New York. He would like to know. Do you like what you're doing now better than what you were doing working for a team when you were with the Blackhawks? And then also how you balance criticism because of your experience as a player, like not trying to drill in too much to the guys, but also being, fair and objective.
Yeah. I like it way more because, I can't be myself when I'm working for a team. I just can't. When I was working in Chicago, it was kind of a situation where, your paycheck is coming from the team. I worked directly for the team, and,
Right.
The team was horrible while I was there. Right. And so even on social media, like I couldn't be myself on social media while I was working for the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, no way. I would have been fired in a day. You know what I mean? So the fact that I don't have to answer to a team and look, like there are people who are friends. I don't mind being critical of, like, it's never personal for me. So like if I'm criticizing a decision that, Kyle Davidson made, who's a friend, who's somebody I really like and I root for, it's not personal. Like, it's just my job is to have an opinion. I mean, during the NCAA selection show, I was asked a question and I answered it. And one of the coaches in the NCAA didn't like how I answered it. And he brought it up in his press conference the opening day of the NCAA tournament. And I'm like, look, it wasn't personal. Like, I was asked a question, I gave an answer. I certainly, like, hey, it is what it is. So I think that I definitely piss a lot of people off, rub a lot of people the wrong way. But at the end of the day, like, what you get is what you get with me. Like, I'm not going to apologize.
You're authentically yourself.
I'm not going to apologize for it. A lot of people are going to hate me for it. The criticism just is what it is. Like, I don't, that I get, whatever. I don't really care. I'm not afraid to dish it. I'm not afraid to take it. When I'm doing a college broadcast in particular, like, I'm never going to be overly critical of a player. I might get overly critical of a coach's decision. They're getting paid a lot of money. And so I feel like they're a little more fair game. I think with a player, I'm not afraid to show a turnover. I'm not afraid to talk about a guy having a rough game. But I also think in that regard, you try to show people, all right, like, that's a turnover, but like, here's what he was trying to do. Like, you want to try to show people, all right, here's what he did wrong. Here's what I know from my experience as a player he's trying to do. Like, you're never trying to turn a puck over. You're never trying to get walked. You're never trying to lose your coverage. So I try to be as positive as I can during the Frozen Four to people, like, they are teenagers, a lot of them. They're student athletes. It's kind of a bullshit term because they're really not. They're athlete students. Like, you are in school, but you're an athlete first. So
Right.
I think the term student athlete is a joke because it's really athlete student. And so, you just try to balance all that and, especially like the social media. I mean, you do a broadcast and, 90% of what you hear is negative and, people send you, I close my DMs on social media. So you can't even send me one on Twitter unless I follow you, because like, you want to send me these stupid threats. And like last year during the Frozen Four, like I literally had a death threat because someone didn't like, from one of the teams, what I had said or whatever. So people hear what they want to hear. Like you could say 50 positive things about a school, a coach, a team, an NHL team, a player. The one time you say something negative, they latch onto it. And you're like, well, what about for the last, 40 minutes, I was talking about all the great. So it's just the world we live in, and you really can't let the criticisms bother you. And again, for me, like, I am not afraid to be overly critical. So I've got to be able to be criticized back. Like, I mean, I'll fight with you tooth and nail. I'll tell you you're an idiot and you're wrong, but I have no issue with the dialogue. I have no issue with you disagreeing or any of that type of thing. And I try to bring that to my broadcasting and I try to call the bullshit out and no matter who it is, like I really don't, I had to carry water for teams when I played when I worked for them. And I'm not going to carry water anymore. And so I know I make Johnny uncomfortable a lot of mornings on our show, but I think that's one of my favorite parts is when I get going and he starts squirming and getting uncomfortable and starts worrying about being associated with me. That's one of the best parts of doing the show with him, because he's such a good guy. Like he's such a I say it all the time, Johnny Laz that I work with, and do Morning Cuppa Hockey with. He's like a golden retriever. He really is. Like he's got all the qualities of a golden retriever. And so I love him, but I love messing with him too. Right. So it's
We
part
all
of the
do.
business. We sign up for it, and we have to be ready to be critical. We have to be ready to be analytical. We have to be ready to eat criticism. We have to be okay saying when you're wrong, which I don't have a problem doing that either. I had to eat my words on James Higgins and how that whole situation worked out, and feeling like it was mismanaged. And honestly, now you look at it and you say, hey, they knew, they were right, I was wrong, and I have no issues with that. I'm when you're on the internet 5 days a week giving opinions for hours on end,
You're gonna be wrong.
You're going to be wrong, So I try not to be wrong, more than I'm right. But hey, listen, this is how it goes.
Yeah, and we had Hagen's agent on actually last episode, and he kind of broke down exactly why that was the structure, how it played out. And so I think it made total sense from both sides to kind of get that done the
Yeah.
way it did.
It's looking like it really was the right decision, and the experience he got, and now he's looking like maybe he's ready to play playoffs and contribute, and so we'll continue to watch the situation. I hope the kid turns into a 10-time All-Star and he's on our next Olympic team, and the American players, you're always rooting for those guys, right? So yeah, like it's all good, and I honestly I know he was pissed off at me. Higgins' agent was pissed off at me. Johnny told me, a guy that I don't know him anymore, but I grew up playing hockey against him. He was a good hockey player in Long Island. My junior flyer team used to play against him when he was on the Long Island Royals. You wouldn't forget his name. It's a unique name, but
Yep.
But listen, I would hope there's no hard feelings. Like he's got to do his thing, I got to do mine, and sometimes people get hard feelings about it, and sometimes they realize, hey, we can agree to disagree. It's all good. But when I'm wrong, I could say it. And on that one, like my criticisms were wrong, and they obviously knew better than I did. So good on them,
Yeah, and John was great. I really enjoyed having him on the show. So hopefully he doesn't hate me too much for having you on the following week. But I think it'll be
He's a
all good.
professional. He's got to
Yeah.
not be that. I can't imagine
he
his
won't.
skin is thin like that. He's a professional agent. I'm
Yeah,
sure
well-
he's a pro, and he'll do his thing and stick up for his clients. And that's how it always goes, man. Scouts stick up for draft picks. Agents stick up for clients. Coaches will stick up for players. I mean, that's the world we live in, and that's one of what makes our sport so great and our culture so great is the loyalty that we all have to one another.
Exactly. And Colby, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for hopping on. As you guys know, Morning Cuppa Hockey on the Daily Faceoff networks, Monday through Thursday, but they're going to start going Monday to Friday, I think starting next week.
Yep.
Playoffs in full swing. So they're going to be dialed. It's a show you want to tune into in the morning because, as we know, NHL Network and other shows don't have live coverage in the morning because of whatever reason.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get into that. We can do a whole nother episode on that,
man.
Colby. But yeah, make sure you're following him along on Twitter for all the juicy hot takes that he has as well. But Colby, this has been great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me, Keith.
PuckPedia.